A wise man named Ade lived in a magical kingdom where legend whispered through the rustling leaves, and the wind carried secrets to far-off regions. Ade had a long, flowing beard that almost touched the ground, and eyes that shone like the night sky full of stars. Ade's house, hidden in the center of green vegetation, was a heaven of wisdom, and his reputation for never telling a lie was as well known as the sun rising each morning. The story of Ade spread like wildfire. Children gathered around a warm fireside, wide-eyed and eager, as elders told stories about Ade's honesty. Even those who lived in communities far away knew of the amazing Ade from a distance, that it would take 20 days to get there. Ade's house was a charming cottage surrounded by vibrant flowers that swayed in the lovely breeze. Ade, with his worn hands and twinkling eyes, would sit on the porch and provide wise words to everyone who sought his advice. The people admired him, not just for his intelligence, but also for the enchantment of his honesty, which shone through every word he spoke. So, in this enchanted village, Ade became a living legend, a light of truth, the world occasionally obscured by lies. Ade had no idea that his honesty was going to be put to the ultimate test when words of his integrity reached the kingdom's powerful ruler, the king. As the sun fell below the horizon, painting the sky in orange and pink, the stage was prepared for Ade's meeting with royalty. The villain held his breath, wondering how Ade's unyielding honesty would be received in the vast hall of the king's palace. They had no idea that this was only the beginning of a story that would last for centuries. The king, ever the curious ruler, couldn't resist the desire to solve the enigma surrounding Ade's reputation. One sunny day, the king assembled his subjects in his magnificent palace courtyard. The air was thick with expectancy, and the throng buzzed with excitement. The king sat on his great throne, glanced around, and said commandingly, "Bring Ade to me." Ade, a wise man with a wide beard that trickled his chest, in his quiet disposition, approached the king in a calm manner. The crowd grew hushed, their gaze locked on Ade, anticipating the encounter between the wise man and the powerful king. With a grin in his eyes, the king asked Ade, "Ade, is it true that you have never lied?" The question hung in the air like weird cloud, and the audience held their breath, waiting for Ade's response. With a soft smile, Ade bowed and responded, "It is true, Your Majesty. I have never lied." The king, curious and slightly dubious, continued, "And you will never lie in your life?" Ade's eyes shone with determination as he said, "I am certain of that, Your Majesty." "Okay, speak the truth, but take care. The lie is clever, and it sticks to your tongue readily," the king said. The crowd muttered in agreement, and the atmosphere was charged with expectancy. The setting was set for the royal challenge that would test Ade's honesty to the limit. Little did they know that this was only the beginning of a story full of twists and turns. The day came. The kingdom buzzed with excitement as the golden sun bathed the sky. Determined to solve the issue of Ade's honesty, the king summoned Ade in his presence again. The king, sitting on a magnificent throne decorated with shimmering gems, surrounded by guards dressed in colorful clothes, and Ade, a humble figure, with long white beards and a glint in his eyes, appeared before the king, prepared to face the royal challenge. Ade, unfazed, accepted the king's challenge with a nod and calm assurance. As the days passed, the kingdom waited anxiously for the outcome of this royal challenge. Ade, aware of the intention, went about his business, offering knowledge and kindness to those who sought his advice. With a wicked smirk, the king summoned Ade again. A large crowd gathered at the king's palace, prepared to disclose his brilliant plan. The royal court was alive with murmur, and everyone anticipated the intrigue. The atmosphere is packed with expectation, and the intrigue grew as Ade accepted the challenge, laying the groundwork for the king's ingenious plan. However, after Ade had persuaded everyone in the kingdom that he had never told a lie, the king, who enjoyed a good challenge, devised a clever way to test Ade's honesty. One lovely day, the king assembled all his subjects in his magnificent palace. He had a devilish grin in his eyes when he told Ade, "I've got a quick task for you. I'm going on a big hunting trip, and I would like you to come to my summer palace. Tell the queen I will be there for lunch, and she should prepare a banquet suitable for a king. You will have lunch with me then." The king no longer intended to go hunting. Instead, he intended to lure Ade into telling a small white lie. The king laughed to himself, thinking, Ade will have to lie to the queen, and tomorrow we will all have a good laugh about it. But being a wise man, he had a strong sense that the king had a dubious plan. He didn't want to lie, but he also didn't want to ruin the fun for the king. So with a serious nod, Ade bowed and proceeded to the queen's palace. The king, clutching his horse by the mane, could already hear the laughter that would reverberate throughout the village the following day. The king had no idea what Ade had planned. Everyone excitedly anticipated the king's return the following day. The stage was set for the regal reveal. Little did they realize that Ade's smart comments were about to give the king a lesson in honesty that he would never forget. With glint in his eyes, Ade, the wise man, sensed the king was up to something dubious. With an honest heart, he went off to the king's palace to deliver the message. As Ade entered the palace, he discovered the queen surrounded by the dubious, delicious perfume of freshly baked bread and the bustling activity of staff preparing for the feast. The queen, clothed in a robe dazzling as the sun, smiled warmly at Ade. "Good day, Ade. The king stated you will bring news regarding lunch. Is he on his way?" the queen queried, her eyes bright with wonder. Ade began to speak with a thoughtful look, making the queen wonder. "Maybe you should make a large feast for lunch tomorrow, or maybe you shouldn't. Maybe the king will arrive by midday, or maybe he would not." Ade's cryptic statement surprised the queen as she furrowed her brow. "Tell me, will he come or not?" she persisted, attempting to solve the puzzle. Ade, glancing at the queen with a knowing stare, responded, "I don't know if he put his right foot on the seat or the left foot on the ground after I left." The queen, perplexed by Ade's statement, was unable to interpret the reality. Ade left the castle feeling satisfied, knowing he had simply spoken of what he had witnessed and leaving the queen in contemplation. The next day, the morning sun peeked above the castle wall, sending a warm glow over the village. The air was thick with anticipation as the people awaited the king's return. The king, with a sparkle in his eyes and a grin on his face, devised a strategy to expose Ade's alleged deception. As the king walked into the palace, the guards held their breath, waiting for the big reveal. The wise Ade, who never lies, lied to you yesterday, declared the king. Satisfied that he had outwitted the truthful sage, but while the words hung in the air like the sweet aroma of blossoming flower, the queen took a step forward. Her eyes shone with a distant type of honesty, one that transcended the words. She described Ade's comment with clarity and startled everyone and said, he remarked, maybe you should prepare a large feast for lunch tomorrow, or maybe you shouldn't. Perhaps the king arrives by midday, or perhaps he will not. He didn't pretend to predict what would happen. He merely acknowledged the uncertainty of the situation. The king's joyful smile faded as the knowledge dawned on him Ade had not lied. Instead, he spoke about possibilities, as if knowledgeable magicians were interpreting the swirling patterns of the future. The guards exchanged bewildered looks, and even the smallest of them, with wide-eyed and inquiring brain, began to comprehend. The king, humbled and educated, looked at Ade with renewed respect. This wise man never lies, and says only what he has seen with his eyes, whispered the king. Ade's honesty, like a blazing beacon, not only passed the king's test, but also blazed a road of truth for the entire village. Ade, the wise man, talked solely of what he saw with his own eyes, teaching everyone, young and old, the power of honesty, even in the face of cunning deception. As a result, the lesson echoed throughout the castle hallway, reaching children who were amazed by the power of honesty. The king, once the master of the grand revelation, had become a student in Ade's school of knowledge, where truth shone brighter than the royal crown. In the end, the king learned an important lesson about Ade's distinct honesty. Ade's ability to talk just about what he saw with his own eyes became a strong monument to his unshakable honesty, leaving an indelible impression on the king and the entire kingdom.